You know you're in with your ACL.
Okay, we're 10 seconds.
My ACL's look great. Remember, you're not 20.
Oh, it's a little hard to forget.
They do have a gun, you're right. Yeah. And the will to win. Old age and treachery will always overcome youth and skill.
Sorry, YouTube's
I don't know if that's
true.
true, but my dad told me. Old age and treachery. Talk about Battleship Mouse later.
Okay.
We're good?
Like,
Okay, welcome to
Mash or
our
something.
city council work meeting for Wednesday, December 11th. We've got a few different meetings tonight, I think just by way of, we've got a work meeting, so we're gonna do a close, we're hoping to get to a close before, correct?
Right.
Then we have a CDRA and HCC, right? And then our regular meeting, so we're gonna try to get in and get going here,
And we may have to go back to those.
maybe, okay, so that's kind of a brief review of the night. Any other changes, comments, changes? You see none, future agenda items. I did talk to Ryan today, we've got a timeline with him now on the athletic complex,
Ish.
okay. As of note, Councilman Hodges is gonna try to hop in and out tonight, he's got 2 Santa Claus gigs. Busy time of year for the big guy.
He's got to be 3 different places at the same time.
Yes, yes, and Councilman Henderson is online.
Mayor, I don't know if you want the Juniper Pit discussion to come back on the future agenda, if it's appropriate to talk about, put that on the future agenda now, or request that now, as we get more information and Todd does a lot of work on it.
Oh, tonight, yes, okay, yes, thank you. So, come back to understand what's going on in the mind. Okay.
If you can fit that in around your records.
The computer records committee.
Your media interviews and.
I'll pencil it in.
Okay, discussion of future citizen recognition. Is there nothing submitted, anything else from council? Okay, we'll keep moving on. Item 2.1, city status report. Trevor, good to have you with us. Do you want to talk about it, or just hear if we have any questions?
If you've got questions, we can talk about it. Let's see. Our vacancy rate continues to hover around 4%. 16 new businesses, including some landscaping, construction, marketing consultant. Interesting stuff. Bryce could talk to the project updates if you're interested in those.
I still love this. Any questions for Bryce on the project updates? Okay,
So we'll say our housing numbers are always a little bit
Nice
behind.
little-
We get those from the realtors and, I haven't seen their latest one.
okay.
But they usually, they lag whatever quarter. So that's the second quarter, I think we're waiting for. Third quarter, so.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you, Trevor. Love this, seriously. Great. Okay.
Engineering or Public Works and Engineering is also working on a report similar to the economic development report when it comes to capital projects. You'll see maps, and you'll see updates, financial information, all of those things as those projects continue. So you'll get those work.
Love it.
Starting in January, Justin?
Yeah, right, you'll get it in January for the 4th quarter.
Love it. So helpful. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, 2.2, discussion on standardizing how the city analyzes projects and opportunities. Nathan.
So, we've spent a lot of time talking about priorities and goal setting, but we keep coming back to some, I think, really high level priorities that the council goes to, which doesn't give staff a lot of direction. So kind of stepping back from that, what I've proposed, and these are just examples of a flow chart or something that we as staff can use to analyze when stuff is coming in, so we can present to you consistently, here's how we think this is meeting what the city's goals are, or not. So there are actually 2 different options. There's one that's more kind of that true yes, no. And then the other one's more narrative, which could still be a flow chart, but just a little more narrative. You could combine that concepts. Really, I just wanted to give you some ideas and see if this is a concept you like. And are there things in here that you say, yes, that has to be in there, if that shouldn't be in there? Give us a little direction as we try to finalize policy that would just help us with, when people come forward or as new ideas come forward, even from staff, we could put it through this analysis beforehand.
So, I think there's kind of a combination of, I like the qualitative narrative aspect of it. I think if we're doing it just yes, no's we're missing out on a lot of important questions that we should be asking and a lot of contextualization for these things that's important. So I would give an example, like, in the option one, does it further a desired outcome for the city? Yes, no. Where the option two question is, how will this decision benefit our residents, right? What are the specific benefits? What things are unclear? Like, that's the kind, like, the question is good, but the answer has to be more qualitative, if that makes sense. And so, I think this is a great idea. I think it probably just needs a little bit of refinement of that, but yeah. Probably more of option two, but
Okay, so more of that qualitative, try to tease out less the ones and zeros, binary, yes, no kind of thing.
yeah, because I say this phrase a lot, but I don't want something that looks good, sounds good, and feels good if it doesn't do good, right? And so I want to make sure that we're defining what the good is and how we measure that as part of our decision-making rubric, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are a little bit the same, like number one is it within the purview of the city? And number one, is it a core essential function of the city? To me, it's like kind of,
Yeah, so,
it's the same thing to some.
yeah, my concept was, if you wanted just that yes, no, option one you could use. Option two is where you tease out, or you could merge them, and they are very specifically trying to get to that same kind of question, just whether it's a yes, no, or do you spend some time saying, is this, if it's a core essential, how is it that
Yeah.
core essential versus yes?
Yeah, no, I agree. Just merge them a little bit, so where you accomplish the, because I think there has to be some yes, nos, but I agree with Steve, it has to, we don't wanna walk away from an opportunity just because it didn't hit a yes.
Some of that gray area, there's some gray area I think we wanna look at. You know,
Almost
like-
everything we do is not so set.
Yeah, because you're saying, will it have a positive return on investment? But the other one is, are there, intrinsic value in it that maybe isn't quantified on a ROI scale,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff? And so that's why I think a merging of the two are important, right? You wanna know if it has an intrinsic thing, but if it's still a big loss,
Yeah.
that's a problem too, right?
And you can define positive return on investment in a couple of different ways. You could say a positive return, what, financially, or a positive return to the community.
Yeah, and I think that's a key piece when we're talking about that is, we would, as we refine this, is understand from council what, you probably wanna identify both those.
Right.
Financial, here's what it looks like financially, but here is that other benefit. If you were truly, if we just took a project, we wanna build a park, it will never generate revenue for itself. They don't.
Right.
So if it was yes, no, you would just throw it out, but there are other benefits that come from it, so. That's why I wanted to give you both concepts,
Like town days,
yeah.
it's a lot of money, right? But it doesn't generate enough to pay for itself, right?
No.
But there is a value there.
Those other okay. So are these, so if we just look at option two, are those the kinds of questions, are there other things you think we would wanna tease out? You don't have to come up with a question, but if there's like another topic or something we could build. I just wanna make sure when we try and finalize it, we bring you back something that hits, that we're not missing an obvious thing.
I think you're on the right track with option two, but I don't want to ignore the importance of data points, right? Like, a lot of decisions have been made exclusively based on a qualitative analysis, right? And we haven't considered all the quantitative part of it. We haven't fully understood the costs over time, or if you choose option A, then suddenly you can't choose option B, right? That's no longer an option for us because we already spent the money this way, right? And so we need to understand, intended consequences, maybe even some unintended consequences, and some of those are tangible, measurable, quantifiable, and some of those are qualitative. And so I just don't want it to be exclusively one or the other. It has to be a combination of both to come to a good decision.
We've made decisions a lot of times without understanding the O and M, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, we have to understand that.
I was just looking through this thing, and we have to make sure that what is that cost of ownership? What is the cost of maintaining it, replacing it in the future, so that we, when council
Putting
makes
that
this
in the
decision,
CIP
it's
and all,
not,
yeah.
it's not a vacuum, like, oh yeah, this would be great. It'd be great, but we also have to make sure we at least consider this. Okay.
Yeah, none of those are individually a reason to say yes or no. That's why I kind of don't like the yes/no answers per se. But a yes or a no in a context is important, right?
So, and you see, some of these, they're still, even though they're qualitative, we still have a yes, no. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily lend itself to it that simple, but it could be, yes, we think, and here's why we believe that. Okay. So I had there, is it a core thing that we do? Because essential functions has been what council said, that's what we're doing. Okay, so that was kind of number one. And then I just walked through there, just want to make sure, is there anything, we talk about benefit to the residents, what benefit or impact to the residents, probably should be both, because sometimes they're not always beneficial, right? They may have to be an impact. Talks about who benefits. Is there, I just want to make sure, is there anything in here that you say, oh, you should include this? We don't have to have a long, because I'll tweak this, you'll still have another chance.
I think
If there's something obvious,
I'd like
like-
to see them merged and then maybe role play an example.
I agree.
Okay.
And I think we can do
And
that.
see how it
I was
works.
planning on bringing back kind of our park projects that we have on the docket and make sure that and maybe we can use that as our test case.
Yeah.
In
And then
January.
we can say, ooh, that broke down here, maybe we would do this
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah, I also think that we keep in the back of our mind that if it doesn't qualify, maybe then it qualifies for the Harriman stuff. You know what I mean? That we look at it. I think that's why number one is so important. Is it essential function of the city, or would it be better fit in the front of the Harriman arena where they can raise money towards it and those types of things and run with that? Do you know what I mean? I don't mean to complicate this, but just in the back of our mind, it's not always a no. It might just be a no from the city, but we're gonna send you here because it makes a better fit there.
Support it, but better here.
So I think what we'll do is, I'll work on merging these, I'll work with staff, we'll create something and then we'll game it through on that. And then, so you'll be doing two things at once, looking at those projects and also saying, yeah, I like this, tweak this, do that. I can't remember when we're bringing this up. January. So that gives us a little bit of time, we'll work on that.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Love it. I like that direction.
What I would suggest then is, eventually we'll have a policy that has this, and maybe we'll just touch base, once a year or something, in like January, to make sure we talk about our strategic plan and these questions, that they're still hitting the need that council has. That way, when people, new councilors come on, they will also be familiarized with it and have an opportunity to weigh in early in their time.
Yeah, it gives you as a staff to analyze if there's more questions that you really should be answering because you're not getting everything you need.
And frankly, every policy and procedure should be reviewed for revisions on an ongoing basis.
Okay. Jared, any feedback?
Sounds good.
I figured this up like this. Okay. 2.3, legislative update.
So, this is we're gonna be a placeholder as we go through the year. And I emailed you out a list, we're gonna start sending that out at least weekly to you. So maybe copy a little bit what the league does. Here are the bills, here's the position that we have taken as a city. And if there, or we'll put proposals when you meet, we just need, if we're up at, anybody who's up there, and somebody asks you, what is Harriman's position? We often will say, I can tell you my thoughts, but I don't know what Harriman, so we're trying to come up with a way as staff to help council see what we're tracking
Right.
and what those positions are. There are, if it's like last year, they're gonna set new records for the number of bill files open and
And
it'll be-
87% of them will be the last week.
Yes, and then there'll be, some of them will have impacts on cities, some won't until the very last amendment, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what, this is now us? So we're just trying to come up with a way, I think, for you to all to be able to engage more regularly, through this session, kind of as we've learned. I think this will be my fourth legislative session here. This is, so just trying to figure out, how do we do this better? How do we, as a city, engage and know whoever's up there knows how to voice, especially the three who are on LPC, how to voice the city's position.
Yeah, and I think that's really important distinction too, that we have to remember that just because it's a league position does not mean it's a Harriman position.
Correct.
So, cause sometimes,
So that's why we're thinking about doing our own list this way, and so the list you had that I sent you was really was, what we did is we met as staff, and a lot of us are parts of other other professional organizations. Catherine, what are the building officials hearing?
they'd
So
love
what is
for
water,
to
what
lose
is
all
water
their
hearing? So
inspections.
that's where this came from. Most of these don't have bills right now. They're bill files that have been either opened or we hear are coming. So that's what you're seeing right now. And it'll be fast and furious for a while. The other thing we were wanting to talk about was trying to set some meetings with our legislators.
Yes.
In the past, we tried to get them all together, and feels impossible. I think we're just gonna find a time they can meet and invite however many from council can be there, and we'll just take them off
Yeah.
one at a time, or as many as we can. Okay, we'll try and do that before the session, so we'll see what we can get put together. Because we have a new representative who covers part of Harriman, and so we wanna certainly sit down with Mr. Fiafia, and then.
So you're
And we also need to start having discussions
He lives right over here.
pretty quickly about Mountain View Corridor
But he couldn't
and the
talk
off
right now.
ramps.
That's
We need to make sure we're
Yeah.
relaying.
Has there been any discussions from the council with representatives about the Mountain View Corridor off ramp?
Not yet. I did get a call from Leif yesterday. I guess, sounds like, are we to that point? I was gonna ask you tonight. It's time to
Yeah.
make those calls. Okay.
Designs are progressing quickly with UDOT, so we need to.
Let's put Senator McKay in front of the list and let's try to get something with him fast and let's bring it up.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start working on that tomorrow.
I know we can call him first and give him a heads up, but Leif said he already talked to him, hadn't talked to Candace yet. But I think I'll see Candace Monday morning. Like I'm bringing it to her a little bit, but give her a heads up.
Okay. Now, with that, you had the list. Is there anything that, at this point, and we have a lot of positions pending, because we don't know enough about these bills to tell you what they mean. They're just titles most of the time. Every once in a while, we'll find out, here's some language. So part of me, if you're aware of anything, if you're hearing rumblings amongst people, let us know about that bill. We may or may not know about it, and maybe it's the same bill, but I'd rather, if you're hearing things from other city councilors in other cities or things, let us know so we can try and make sure we're keeping up on what is coming.
Or in the boards that you all serve on. And legislation impacts those boards as well. So hearing things there.
I know, there was one, I discussed this with the waste district today about, the impact ADUs would have on them because technically they should have to buy, treat it as a separate residence and get another can rather than the primary residence just getting an extra can because the fees are different. And so they're like, really interested in any ADU type of stuff going on right now too, because it will, and she was saying even, how are we gonna treat that with water, sewer, all those types of things, you know what I mean? Are they on a separate meter for all that
They
kind of
are,
stuff?
I think they're part of
The residents.
they're part of the residence, so it's an accessory, so it is part of that. So that's, I think that, at least for us, the water and stuff has already been hammered out in state law.
Yeah, cause there were some municipalities that were charging impact fees, for ADUs for those reasons. And then the legislature a year or two ago changed that for internal ADUs, but then that same discussion will happen on external ADUs. Representative Ward will be presenting a bill on external ADUs, making them a permitted use, and anywhere. There's really not a lot of boundaries on it, at least the last draft that I saw. But I know the districts are gonna be interested on, well, this impacts parking and sewers and water and power.
And garbage, add that to your list, because it's,
They
it's
have to have
just,
extra cans.
it's not just an extra can, cause an extra can is substantially less than like a whole different service. And they feel like it's a whole different residence, so it should be a whole different bill, but
So we'll kind of see where that goes again.
I hadn't thought about it either.
Yeah.
So,
In other cities that I've worked for, we gave discretion to the property owners to whether or not they wanted a second meter for the ADU. If they request a second meter, is it possible there could be can we distinguish between whether or not something might be impact fee eligible? Is that something that we
Right
could lobby
now,
for?
cause that's, with internal ADUs, they have that separate meter language. I'm saying that municipality may, require only one meter on a property, but the impact fees for an internal ADU is prohibited regardless of the meter. I'm assuming that's how the external ADUs will be proposed.
Okay. Farmington, you may have heard, is allowing subdivisions of the ADU.
Yeah.
It just feels like more and more an opportunity for justifying a fee, but
You're right.
Interesting.
anyway, that's maybe a little off subject, but
No, not at
that's a
all.
little.
No, that's not off at all.
Something to another board that is having, concern about that for sure. Fluoride, I wish we didn't take a neutral, I wish we just said.
Where's the
Until the
fluoride
health-
one?
It's on the fourth line, third line. But until the health situation is, I know that the district sent a letter to the county health department, and I know that the county, our rep in the county is working on some legislation, legislation a little bit there to see if they can do something internally for that, at least ways not require us to put it in or something, but anyway, if you read the lawsuit that the fluoride company lost essentially, it's very concerning, the health risks to unborn babies, so I
Yeah,
hate to see us dumping it in water for our residents also,
So the EPA is under a mandate based on that federal study to come up with
a solution.
TMDLs for fluoride. And it may be that you take it out, and I think it's one we're gonna watch. I don't know if the
How-
state's gonna do anything on this right now. But I think there may even be some move at the federal level to back off on the fluoride.
Yeah, it's funny that if they're telling them you gotta deal with it, but it's like, they just keep doing it until you figure out a way to deal with it, it's a little crazy to me. But anyway, off subject, it's just on there as neutral, and I understand why we would probably have to remain neutral on it until some point, but it's expensive for us, it's a safety risk for us, and then if we have documentation saying it's a health risk for our public, it's concerning.
That's all what we're gonna start, like I said, every meeting we're gonna have a conversation about this, we'll be sending this to you a little bit like the league does, just so you get it, so you can see where we're at and we can talk about it, and then when we're up, anybody who's up at the league or gets called, we'll have this list, you can look, okay, is it on there? Yeah. And then there may be some discussion about just general things, I know we've talked in the past that if the state's going to take away some of our authority, we were opposed to that kind of a blanket opposition. I'm assuming that's still our intent. It's our, they shouldn't encroach and take away things that are ours to do now, so.
Unless it's Florida. Just kidding.
And I don't know about Todd or Nathan, but all the meetings that I've sat on so far this fall, they really seem to be holding back from going for local government again this year. I feel like they're really pushing back a lot and saying, well, have you talked to the league? Have you talked to the local municipalities about this? And I feel like they're gonna be easy on us this year.
And we've, I think, done a good job telling our story with the data.
Yeah.
I still think there'll be some questions about, housing that are gonna come out.
Parking, garages.
Garages, but a lot of what we've pushed back on is, well, here's what we've allowed, it's not being built, so it's trying to work through, all those pieces that. I haven't heard of another, in the past, we've always heard there's gonna be a substantial bill that'll do huge things, I haven't heard that yet, but, if this meeting we won't be told that once it starts.
Yeah, hopefully they're walking back from these, I don't know, these propaganda, I would call them, these taglines they put on everything. We have a this crisis, we have a this crisis. Well, it's typically not the government that makes it better, it usually makes it worse. So hopefully they are tapping the brakes a little until they really see, like we've asked them for years, what have the changes, have they made a difference? Have they changed anything?
And
they
they
don't-
reference some of the legislators to say that.
Good, good.
So that is
Resonating.
Yeah.
So we'll see that, and from a, I think engagement wise, the mayor now sits on the league board, so he has kind of a, maybe a little different perspective that he can bring to this from that. Todd sits on the land use task force, so we kind of always feel, have a sense there, so.
And I will say there's a very different bill on the board, the league board now, it's very different. Most of our meetings have been these same conversations we have, which I think will be. So I think that will.
That's good.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise,
No.
I think we're.
Anything Todd?
No, just we'll just circle back on this each meeting in a work session and try to get some feedback, so that way we can update the table. And then we can present you some, if you have questions, we can try to answer them in that fashion. And if Chase causes any more problems with the legislature, we'll have to kick him out of this room.
Yeah, can you take away his jacket?
Don't wear
I'm on
that
the land use
jacket when
task
you
force
do it.
with Todd, and I'll say that is a very productive, committee,
Yeah, we're able to resolve
Yeah.
quite a few issues.
it's awesome.
There are obviously gonna be some no consensus items, and we talked about some of them today, and I think it's one of those things, like, they understand our position, we understand theirs, but we just can't agree to it, but a big part of it we can, so, it is a very productive group.
Okay. That was easy. Okay. Well, that brings us to the close of our work meeting, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn and go to close. Somebody got that? He's got it.
It's okay, you just raise it, that's.
I make a motion to temporarily recess the city council meeting to go into closed meeting for the following purposes as provided in Utah State Code annotated section 52-4-205. Strategy sessions to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation, strategy sessions to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, or to discuss a proposed development agreement, project proposal, or financing proposal related to the development of land owned by the city.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Sherry. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jared? You're muted. How about yes?
That's enough.
We're okay, right? We still have.
Yeah,
We
we have
made
four. Okay. Okay, so we will go into close. We need to stay in this room. We need
Blake, Kyle. Who else, Blake?
Probably done. I don't know if it really brings much value, but you know, it's
Please.
No argument there.
There's gonna be a lot of material for that later this week.
I'll make it